and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, if you got kids, I know right now you are probably pulling out every little hair you have, trying to wrap gifts, get them under the tree. If you're big mama, you're trying to get dinner cooked, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. It's that time of year, you know, when we're all getting together with family and friends and we're trying to celebrate the holiday. Don't forget to leave Christ in Christmas. Yes, I said it. Keep Christ in Christmas, because it's all about what we do and how we love, right? So one of the things that I think we talk about during the holiday season is looking out for our fellow man. It is our responsibility to do for others and to give back. And that's what the holiday season is supposed to be about. So the Indianapolis Star reports, with an increasing numbers of COVID-19 patients and overwhelmed healthcare workers, the situation in Indiana hospitals is absolutely dire. Dr. Gabriel Boslett told MSNBC Rachel Maddow Monday evening. The IU health intensive care physician was interviewed by Maddow days after his public testimony at the Indiana State House, where lawmakers are beginning the process of fast-tracking a bill that would discourage private employers from opposing vaccine mandates. Our hospitals are bursting, he pled. He pled with lawmakers on Thursday. We are tired. We have been able to scale up ICU beds and ventilators, but we have not been able to scale up people. There are no more of me. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what he told Rachel the other night.
You know, we've been through so many roller coasters of emotions during this thing. And if I think back to last March or April, when this was, the original strain was bearing down on us, everyone left the hospital and we started with really low rates of people in the hospital. So if I'm honest, I'm more scared now than I was even when we had no idea what was going to happen when the original virus was coming, because we are starting now with hospitalization rates that are literally higher than they've ever been in the state of Indiana. We've never had 14,000 patients in hospital beds in the state. We normally range around 10,000, and that's where we are today. So if Omicron comes through, and even if it's less severe than the Delta strain, just the sheer numbers of people that it sounds like are going to be infected could very, very easily overwhelm us very, very quickly, because we have no slack in the system.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounded pretty serious. I mean, this is a doctor who's working in the hospitals. But see, we have elected officials, statewide elected officials, who, as they say, don't necessarily believe what they're hearing. Let's hear what Todd Rokita had to say.
We're hearing numbers, 80% of those in the hospital receiving treatment right now are unvaccinated. So how do you rationalize trying to stop people from having to get the vaccines, but yet so many in the hospital are the unvaccinated?
Well, first of all, I don't believe any numbers anymore. And I'm sorry about that.
Really?
But they're politicized. This has been politicized.
State health people, huh?
This has been politicized since day one. I think we have to focus on whether or not people are dying anymore. And the fact is, the Omicron variant is a much milder variant. You mentioned it. And the reason hospitals are filling up is because their own healthcare workers won't come to work because of the mandates that have been put on them. A year ago, we were calling them heroes, and now they're some kind of villains.
We're hearing numbers, 80%.
Y'all, I'm not, first and foremost, homeboy should never be around anything that requires writing policy, because it is apparent that he is not listening to, nor does he care about the people who are actually on the front lines, who are telling us what they are experiencing when they go to work every day. We had to ask the National Guard. A couple of the healthcare systems in Indiana had to reach out to the National Guard and ask them for assistance because they were completely overwhelmed. But we have somebody in Attorney General Todd Rokita who is going to run for governor. Please understand. Running around saying, A, he doesn't believe the numbers. He doesn't believe the numbers. So he's saying he thinks the physicians and the nurses and the healthcare workers are lying. And he also says the reason why the beds are filling up is because the healthcare workers who have been dealing with this thing nonstop don't want to come to work anymore. So he literally just villainized the people that we rely on to help us get better. And then he says this thing has been politicized. It's only been politicized by Trumpsters. Scientists said, we're still learning about what this thing is, what it does, how it interacts. And science is not static. It is forever evolving. And as we learn more, we get more information. But then you have knuckleheads like Todd Rokita who want to suggest that all of these people who are out here working their tails to the bone are lying and are misleading people. He doesn't work in the hospital. How the heck would he know? And he has top-notch health care insurance. So I'm certain he ain't struggling. And I bet for cheese and crackers, he is fully vaccinated with a booster. See, it's this kind of mentality that we have in our offices, statewide offices, and that supermajority in our state house that are killing people. I'm going to say it again. It's this mentality that is killing people. Now, the last time I checked, Indiana was an at-will state, and companies could implement whatever rules they wanted to implement in their organization to keep their employees safe. And you can be terminated for whatever reason in Indiana, except for when Republicans are trying to score political points, when they're trying to say it's not political, try to tell these at-will organizations what they can and cannot do. I don't understand how that works. You want to mandate an organization can't mandate. Does that make any sense to anybody? I know it doesn't make any sense to me. We're going to mandate that you can't mandate. But I thought we wanted small government. I thought we wanted government out of businesses and free market and let people do what they want to do. You can't have it both ways. But you know what? Your people are the ones that are going in the hospital. Your people are your voters. And that's sad that you would sacrifice your voters like that. It's sad that you would put human lives at risk to score political points. Todd Rokita is horrible. And I said it. He's horrible. He's horrible for Indiana. And anytime you discount the people that are out here busting their behind for the last 2 years to keep us alive in these hospitals when they're overwhelmed, they're getting exposed themselves, they're taking it home to their families, and he wants to tell them that they just don't want to go to work? That was repulsive. I was so utterly offended about what this man had to say about my fellow Hoosiers who have been out here working their tails off. He doesn't have to lead anything in Indiana. We can take care of him. We can vote him out. I'm certain we will have a candidate that will run for attorney general. I am certain when he decides to run for governor, because he's going to run, y'all. I'm not saying anything that's crazy. He's going to run. But this is not the kind of person we want leading our state, because it's not a very bright point that he's making. He's not making an intelligent point. Every time I hear that, I get angry, because it's like, how could you? How dare you? How dare you? Our hospitals are overrun with COVID cases, and most of the people who are suffering the most in the hospital are unvaccinated. Why are you working so diligently to tell companies what they can and cannot do to protect their employees, to protect their work environment? You can't talk out of both sides of your neck. I see you, and the rest of Indiana is going to see you too. And to all the healthcare workers who will be working over the holiday, they don't get Christmases off. They don't get Christmas Eve off with their family. They're going to be holding somebody else's family member's hand who decided they didn't want to get vaccinated. They're going to miss out on the opportunity to be with their kids because they chose to be healthcare workers, and they're going to be at work. But no, Tom Keita says the hospitals are overwhelmed because people don't want to go to work. Well, you know what? If I keep beating on a brick wall and that wall don't come down, I'm going to find something else to do. You ain't going to break me down. And I ain't mad at them if they don't want to go back to work, because you got people like Tyra Keita trying to move us backward. All right, that's my rant. It burned my soul when I heard that. It just burned my soul. And y'all, we got to do better. It's our job to look out for each other. It's the Yuletide season, right? It's the Yuletide season. We're supposed to look out for each other. And that includes some of our fellow Democrats. I would like for Joe Manchin to stop telling people, Senator Joe Manchin, I would like for him to stop telling people what they should and shouldn't do with their child tax credit. While he is driving his Maserati, going to his yacht. And West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the union. So he's not looking out for his fellow man. We have work to do, people. And when I talk about I want to elect Democrats, I want to elect Democrats that are looking out for the people, not trying to manage their coal investment. And you know me, I very seldom just go all the way tee off on a Democrat, but he's wrong. He's on the wrong side of this. And it's got to be called out. Yes, there's some other ones, and he's taking the arrows. But did you see where he was like, I'm not voting for it because I didn't like the way they treated me. So your feelings got hurt. And so we can't get the Build Back Better plan because your feelings got hurt. Joe Manchin, with your little sensitive behind. Your feelings got hurt. You know, I'm just going to say it. Obviously, we need more black women in the Senate, because our feelings don't get hurt like that and we don't do our job. Well, I take that back. Our feelings get hurt all of the time, but we still show up. We show up and get her done. We ain't some soft, super wealthy dude with a Maserati and a yacht whose feelings are so fragile, he can't look out for the people. We got work to do. We have real work to do because lives are at risk. We got work to do. All right. I did say that was my rant 20 minutes ago, didn't I? Yo, you know what, though? I'm excited. It's election season. I'm excited. There's nothing better to me than meeting candidates, hearing their platforms, and finding out why they want to represent you in whatever office they're running for. So tonight, first of all, I had a chance to not only meet and work with him. We used to work across the hall from each other when I was with Surveyor Deb Jenkins in her office. And not only was he a good teammate in the recorder's office, he held my hand on so many different things to help me become a good deputy chief for Deb. I mean, I could run across that hallway without calling or sending an email, and he would do whatever he could to help me out. And that's that's leadership, y'all. That's service. Y'all, welcome to Turn Left, candidate for Marion County Recorder, Chris Becker. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dana. It's great to be with you, and you're exactly right. That's why people, I hope why people work in government is to help people out, and was never any problems. Always happy to lend a hand where I can.
I appreciate it, because trying to figure out how to do some purchasing over there was kind of
the bureaucracy can get to you, I'll tell you.
I just need some chairs. It was a battle, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, being in that building and working with and for the people. It is a different experience. But what makes you tick? Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Fort Wayne. I come from a very large working class Union Catholic family. I'm one of 7 kids, and I've got 20 nieces and nephews. Looking forward to the craziness that is the holidays when we all get together this weekend to go go back home and see them. I started this political thing I've been involved with 20 some years ago. And I just picked up the phone. There was a guy running for mayor in Fort Wayne. And I was in school, and I just said, well, I like this guy. I want to see if there's anything I can do to help him. So I called and asked if I could volunteer. I volunteered with a campaign that led to an internship, that led to a job here in Indianapolis working for the state Democratic Party. And I've kept going, I guess, over the last 20 years, working for a number of campaigns and causes and candidates. My parents, I like to say, are Kennedy Catholics, and that, kind of instilled in my brothers and sisters and I that, we have an obligation to help people. We have an obligation to serve our community on some level, and politics is how I've come to that. So
I love it.
Yeah. That again, that Kennedy Catholic side, it's not the it's the social justice part of the Catholic faith that, that service to one another, that really struck me. So
I love it.
Yeah, I've moved, been here in Indianapolis 20 years, and here in my house on the east side of Indianapolis.
East side?
Yes. So, let's see what else. The job at Indiana Democratic Party, was worked there in 2000, working to help re-elect Governor Frank O'Bannon,
Nice.
and worked with former Chairman Robin Winston, and then he formed a consulting firm, and I went with him, and when he started that business and was the business manager there for 8 years, then got back involved with a campaign in 2008 on our candidate for governor, Jill Long Thompson, managing her schedule and her lieutenant governor's schedule, Denny Oxley, and decided I was ready to move on to something else after that election. Turns out, December 2008, you may recall, was not a very good time to be looking for a job.
No, it wasn't.
Little recession going on. But I did some contract work for a while, including with Indiana Equality, helping, which unfortunately is no longer around, but they were beating the drums on civil rights for our fellow LGBTQ Hoosiers here, long before that RIFRA mess took place. So I helped them with some association management and fundraising stuff. Incredibly proud of that work that we did. As our Democrat legislators will have said, we don't necessarily get a lot of wins out of that, but we definitely kept some bad things at bay. So, and then after those contracts were up, I finally, it seems to me, found my way into government, and started working with Beth White when she was clerk, as her assistant and later communications director. And then she ran for Secretary of State in 2014.
Yes.
And asked me to manage her campaign, which was a lot of fun, and got to go all over the state and meet people. Unfortunately, her election was not successful, but my longtime friend Kate Sweeney Bell was also running for office that year, and she was elected county recorder, and asked me to come work with her and help run the office. So that's what I've been doing the last 7 years as chief deputy in the recorder's office.
Whoa, you have got a lot of political tread on you, bro. I didn't even know all of that. I mean, I knew you had spent some time doing some stuff, but
Yep.
Wow, that is a long history in Indiana Democratic politics.
Yeah, and it's not something I really think about. I hadn't thought about until I, was starting to run for office, and, people like you asking me well, what are you all about here? It's like, oh, well, gosh, I have been involved with this for a while, and meet some great people along the way, right?
Exactly. Well, you worked with a winner. If you were working with Robin Winston, you're working with a winner.
Yeah.
You know how to win.
Yeah. Still call him boss.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Listen, I still get a little sweaty palms when I see an email from him. So, because he's a mentor, even though he
Oh,
is somewhere doing his thing. You're watching and you're looking to see what he does and how he does it because he knows how to win.
very driven, very driven guy. Learned very much working for him.
I love it. So tell me about you said when you worked with the Indiana Equality, you were working on issues that, before RIFRA. Talk about some of those, because, come on, we got to bring out the Rainbow Warriors. Come on now.
Absolutely. So we were working on, at the time, Indianapolis there was only a handful of cities that had fully inclusive non-discrimination ordinances. And, for a while we were trying to get that passed on a statewide level. And, as you mentioned, you can only run into that brick wall so many times before you decide maybe let's try a different tactic. So we started working on cities and getting more cities to include, and I use fully inclusive because my hometown, Fort Wayne, did have a non-discrimination ordinance, but it did not cover gender identity. So that was one we were working on to get that fully inclusive ordinance. At the State House, we were also working on hate crimes bill, which sadly, all these years later, we still don't have.
Even though they want to claim that we do.
Right, we don't. And we were also keeping, marriage inequality out of the State House. Was at the time, I can't believe it. I still can't believe that wonderful day in June, when marriage equality came to Indiana, at least for a few days, and then finally was, fully, was the law of the land. But back then in 2009, 2010, there wasn't even the idea that we could get marriage equality here in Indiana. So we weren't fighting that battle. We were just trying to keep it out of the State House. So that was met some very very hardworking people working with Indiana Equality. And what was the I can't remember the name of the organization that sort of came up after Freedom Indiana.
Freedom, you know what? I was going to say Forward Indiana, and I'm like, wrong one.
Indiana Equality was sort of the precursor to all that. A lot of the same people were involved in, and the corporate sponsors that we had, backing the fundraising and stuff that we did was always surprising to me. You have the mindset business is Republican is anti-gay, but there were a lot of corporate leaders that, we saw that with Freedom Indiana, that they stepped up and said, no, this is right, this is fair, we need this. So
absolutely,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't pay to be, bigoted. I mean, when they were, that's why they ended up having to revise RIFRA when they did. Oh, we got a fix. No, you don't have a fix. We try to tell you not to do this, but you know what? Right. Y'all hard-headed. You're going to learn the hard way.
Yep.
And that's kind of cool because, the civil rights movement, there's several civil rights movement. I know some people don't want to say that, but there's several civil rights movement, and making sure that Indianapolis is inclusive, and then encouraging other cities around. And then I look at like Carmel, which is a Republican hotbed. They have an ordinance, right. So, gay folk everywhere, they just need to get over it. We here, we're not going anywhere.
Nope.
So talk about some of the some of your greatest lessons that you learned while working with former chairman Robin Winston and business owner and winner of all elections.
Right. Well, this is a story I like to tell folks about what it was like to work for Robin. And this was, I was his assistant at State Party. So, when somebody hands control of their time over to you, that's a very, that's a lot, right? It's a lot of trust in someone that you're going to manage their calendar. They're going to manage your time, their contacts and access to him. One of the things, he's so very organized. And I wish I had some more of that from him. But he had a little day calendar. He probably still does. Maybe he uses his phone. I don't know. But you come into his office and he would write down, your initials. So CB, follow up on, whatever meeting. And then he'd go forward, 2 days, a week, whatever, on when he was going to follow up with you. And we'd put it in his calendar for that day. So when he came into his calendar again, okay, or my day planner here, nope, I got something, Dana Black's on my calendar. You were supposed to get this done. Is it done? So, I never walked into his office without something to write, pen and paper, because he was going to give you something to do. And I had to write it down, or otherwise I'd forget. And I knew he was going to ask me about it because I just saw him write it down in his calendar. So it was sort of that accountability measure that he has, that has stuck with me. The other thing was he had at State Party, he had a sign that he put on the front door of the State Party that said, "Wait is a 4-letter word," and which means we don't have time to wait.
Exactly.
I'm waiting on to do this. No, don't wait. I'm waiting on someone to get back with me. Well, then follow up with them. It was the 4-letter word you weren't allowed to use in the office. I'm waiting.
That's a tip I'm taking with me right now. I'm packing that away. That's a good tip.
But yeah, and he said this at Winston Terrell Group, the firm he and Pat Terrell formed. 90% of our business is because we followed up, and I think that's true. It was a government relations firm. I likened it to being a translator. You have people who work in government who are, procuring things, roads and bridges and stuff like that. And then you have engineers who build those things. And for some reason, the engineers aren't really good at talking to government people. And so they hire a firm like Winston Terrell Group who can do that translation. So 90% of the business is because we followed up, and it's true. You reach out to somebody and they don't get back with you, then you follow up with them again. Wait until they say no to you. Yeah, I don't want to do business with you, or no, we're not going to do that. So those are some lessons from Robin. That accountability measure and just always moving forward with him. It's always forward.
I love it. So you said you worked on the Jill Long Thompson campaign for governor, and so you've actually been a part of 2 statewide campaigns with Beth White running for Secretary of State and Jill Long Thompson. You have a thing for strong women, don't you? I love it. You want to work with strong women.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I set you up.
And Kate, and working with Kate.
And Kate, yes. Okay, you got a thing. All right. So what was it like for you being on those statewide campaigns, and what are some of the do's and don'ts and the things that you learned from running being a part of those huge campaigns? Yeah.
Well, like I said, with Jill's campaign, was managing her calendar and Denny Oxley, Lieutenant Governor's calendar. So again, it was one of the, you're managing somebody's time, and especially when you're running statewide, you've got to manage, there's a finite amount of time, there's a finite amount of, people that you can talk to. And while it wasn't necessarily my decision on who we were going to be meeting with, but you build that calendar around, okay, if we're going to Lake County, that's a drive up there and a drive back, or, are we doing a loop kind of thing? So coordinating that kind of scheduling takes a lot, and making those trips worthwhile. And
yes.
I'll say this to all the other Democrats who are out there listening or watching. If a candidate for statewide office is coming to your county, have a fundraiser for them. Pass the hat if you have to, but even if it's just paying for the gas to get there, we got to spend so much time, especially a Democrat in Indiana, has to spend so much time raising money to be close to competitive. So coming to your JJ dinner and meeting the Democrats there is great. It's part of running for office. Bring some checks with you, though.
I love it.
Because they need the money. mean, that politics isn't free. So
And you know what? Every time somebody comes on Turn Left, I turn left into fundraisers. So if you like what Chris Becker is talking about, there's a link right there that you can click on, and you can donate to his campaign right now while you're still listening. Don't make sure you open it in a new window or a new tab so you don't click off, because this is a great conversation, right? And the reason why I asked you about, what was it like running the statewide campaigns? Well, a good chunk of the population in Indiana is right here in Indianapolis
Right.
and in Marion County.
right.
And you're running in a county with close to 1 million residents, probably around 600,000 eligible voters. Does that seem like a daunting task for you, or because you've done the, statewide campaigns, you anticipate and recognize the work ahead of you?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, Dana. In all my time working in and around government and politics, I never expected to run for office one day. It really was never something I had in mind to do. Um, Part of it is a personality thing. I'm much more comfortable behind the scenes, working for a strong woman and helping them be successful, than I am being out front. And so the idea of running for office, for recorder specifically, it took a while. It took some convincing of myself that it was something worthwhile to do, and ultimately decided that it was worthwhile and I was going to give it a shot. So the other part of that, though, is helping people run for office. Apparently, the news to me is a lot different than running for office yourself.
No.
Yeah, I really thought I was more prepared for what it was going to take, having worked on campaigns before, and there's just a lot more. I mean, driving Beth around to different parts of the state, sometimes that would be me, sometimes that would be someone else in a campaign or a volunteer, and I got to go home, right? She's got to get up the next morning, and she's probably heading down to Evansville or something. Like, it is nonstop like that, and I got to take a break. Helping somebody, you don't get those breaks when you're the candidate. So
Nope.
you just got to keep moving forward, though.
Oh, and wait till those door knocking seasons.
Right.
Which is my favorite part. I enjoyed it, but I didn't run in a district. My district didn't have, 500,000 people.
Sure. Yeah.
So, you said you've been working in the recorder's office for the last 7 years. Give us an overview of what the recorder's office is, and what they do for the constituents of Marion County.
Sure. Well, when Kate asked me to come work for her, I had to admit to her, I'm not really sure I know what the recorder's office does.
And it's not the historically black newspaper?
No, we are not the Indianapolis Recorder. We're the Marion County Recorder. People confuse that all the time, though. So the recorder is responsible for maintaining property records, like your deed and the mortgage to your home. Anything that's going to have anything to do with ownership interest in a property. The recorder is responsible for keeping those records forever. We have records that go back to 1821 when the city was founded, all the way up to if you were buying or selling a house a few weeks ago, or you refinanced your mortgage. All of those records are filed with our office. And the reason that's important is because it creates a chain of custody of ownership from one owner to the next, which enables people to borrow money and buy a home.
Okay.
The mortgage, the mortgage that's attached to your home is, the bank is securing that loan with the house. And the bank has a title search done when you buy a home to make sure, one, the person selling it to you is the rightful owner. And then two, are there any liens or encumbrances on the property that are going to affect their ability to give you that mortgage?
Okay.
So that's the gist of what the recorder's office does. It keeps those property records and then makes them available to the public so that this title search can be done. It's not Parks and Rec. It's not, we're not saving lives. We're not building parks, but it's important. And the economy can't function if people can't buy property.
Absolutely.
It's been a very busy years for us, despite the pandemic. We have had the two of our busiest years, and I think I'd have to go back to in the 1990s, where we were recording as many documents as we are right now. And it's a lot of those, Dana, you know, from working in government, a lot of the county offices are those things that you just need them to work, right? They don't get a lot of press. They're not, like I said, we're not turning dirt, building a new park or anything like that. Until something goes wrong, right? Then you want to make sure that someone there knows what they're doing and can help you out.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the recorder's office. Kate has likened it to, which is a really good analogy. The recorder is sort of like the library of property records. And what does a librarian do but help you find what you're looking for? So we kind of have taken that approach over the last 7 years of trying to be helpful to people who do need our services or do need help with things.
I love it. And now you said from the founding of our city, you guys have documents. There was no microfiche back then. There was no, being able to do Google searches. So I was around when you guys were able to, you guys, I don't want to say digitized all of those records. You were a part of that project. Talk about what that project was and the extent of it and how that's helpful to citizens.
Sure. So it was a contract that was waiting to be signed for Kate when she started. It was literally on her desk when January 1, 2015, to digitize some of the oldest records for the county, primarily the deed records from 1821 to 1964. Everything after 1964, we already had a digital copy of. And they kept in books, and it was, basically a register of, Dana Black bought a house today, and we wrote it down. So it's scanning those books. To some extent, somewhere probably in the 70s, they microfilmed all of those books. And so we had microfilm copies of those original books. But Kate was actually able to talk with the Indiana State Archives, and they actually still had some of the original books from back then. So we worked with our contractor to set up shop in the State Archives building, and they took digital images of one page at a time, and then cropped them all into they're legible images here, readable images. And then our staff has been indexing them.
Now, what is indexing for people who don't know?
Sure. I'd say you use the Google analogy, and I like to use the analogy that if you type something in the Google search bar, it's going to give you 3 million results, right? When you're really only looking for one document, that's not helpful. So what our staff does, and again, using the library analogy, if you're going to go look for a book, you're probably going to look by the book name, the name of the book, the author, or maybe the genre of book. It's nonfiction or something like that. But we're taking that same kind of information out of your deed. The person that sold you the house, you, the buyer, the legal description is actually a legal description of where the property is in the county, and then what type of document it is. And we're typing all that out so that those are searchable fields now for people who are looking for them. That's what indexing is. Really, that is what recording is creating that index of searchable criteria.
That had to be an incredibly tedious set of tasks. How long did it take you guys to finish that?
Well, first of all, we had to figure out what the contract was and what it all meant. But from when we got started, I think it was 1.5 years probably before they delivered the final images to us. The indexing is still going on. It was 1.5 million records, I think. So it's going to take a while to do that.
Okay, so it's still ongoing.
Yeah, the indexing is still ongoing. And really we did that project really for 2 reasons. One, so we had these digital copies of the records, but the microfilm was deteriorating. So we were at risk of losing those records forever. So we had them digitized, and then our contractor made new microfilm off of the images, so we have those records to keep. But for most real estate transactions, for residential, the title company is probably going to go back looking 50 years. For commercial, they go back looking 100 years. So we're getting to the point where some of these records that we just digitized are really just going to be historical. They're not necessarily going to be used in a practical way.
Yeah, but you still want to have them, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
There's history there.
Absolutely.
So one of the other things, as county electeds, you guys have to submit a budget to the council, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I hate budget season.
It lasts forever, first of all. I think we start in May and the budget doesn't get approved until October. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. You've presented quite a few budgets in your day. How do you go about the process of putting your agency budget together?
Sure. This is something else that's unique about the recorder's office, is we have two dedicated funds from the fees that we collect from the recording and copies. And when Kate and I started, we were using part of the general fund, which, you know, when you pay your taxes or whatever, it's used to pay for government services by all the county offices. And then we have, the two funds that are specific to our office. And we went through a fee structure change in 2017, the Indiana recorders, not just Marion County. We worked with the legislature, Republican legislature, and our partners in the Indiana Land Title Association and mortgage bankers, the heavy users in our office. And all of this came from the CFPB. I'm getting off on a little rant here. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm nerding out. So hopefully the people know I'm just nerding out right now.
So changes from the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau after the 2008 housing crash wanted to make sure that when you were buying a home, you knew all the fees that you were going to have to pay and where they were going. And the recording fees at the time were based on page number. How they came up with that in the beginning, I don't know. But in the mortgage process, those pages get added. And so they wanted across the country, the mortgage industry was moving towards what we call predictable fees. So we knew how much the mortgage and the deed were going to be when we recorded them on the front end. So we work with those associations, Association of Indiana Counties, the Bar Association, a lot of partners to lobby the legislature and say we need to make a change to our fees. They also hadn't been updated in a while. So now we have flat fees in across the state. But that also, we also were able to modify where those fees were going once we collected them.
Okay.
Most of the money goes to the county general fund. I think we collected $8 million last year in total. About half of that, $3 million of it or so, goes to the county general fund. Some of it goes to the recorders' dedicated fund. Some of it went to the surveyors' dedicated fund.
I remember that.
Yeah. And one of the things Kate, I know she's proud of it, that I'm proud that we've done over the last 7 years, is we were making this change to our fee structure. There was an existing fee added to the recording fee in Marion County that goes to the Indianapolis Housing Trust Fund. And that money is used for affordable housing programs here in Marion County.
Wow.
So we were able to not only keep that money in place, keep that allocation in place, we increased it, and we no longer had to split it with the state. They were getting a chunk, we were getting a chunk. So now we're collecting over $1.5 million every year that are unrestricted funds that the city can use for affordable housing programs. Like, as you grant money is usually federal money. It's all tied to something. You've got to have certain requirements. There's no requirements for this. The city. So if they need housing vouchers in a apartment fire or something like that happens and people need housing vouchers, I don't know exactly what all they can do with this money, but there aren't restrictions to it.
Right.
So increasing that allocation for that was a big win for us. But going back to your original question about the budget, most of it's tied. Well, let me back up for a second. We're now funding our office completely off of the fees that we collect, which saves taxpayer dollars.
Nice. I need you to say that again, because sometimes people be tripping and thinking that, oh, I'm giving my tax money and they not blah, blah, blah. Say that again so they can hear that loud and clear.
Right. Our office, the recorder's office, is funded completely off of the fees that we collect. And in fact, we contribute as I said, about $3 million every year to help the government pay for the services it does provide. So we have a little more flexibility, I think, because we're not relying on county general funds for our office operations. Speaking of nerding out, here's another little nerd thing about the recorder's office. The recorder herself is the appropriator of the funds from this. It's called the Recorder's Perpetuation Fund. The elected recorder is the one who can allocate those funds, not the city county council, not the mayor, not the general assembly. It's specifically for the recorder to. It's very rare. I think there's a fund that the sheriff has is similar as well, but.
I'm certain IMPD got money. It's probably from when they confiscate people's stuff.
Oh,
they got a confiscation fund. Yeah. It's real. It's a real thing.
Yeah. So preparing the budgets takes a long time, and most of our budget goes to our staff and paying for salaries and wages, which are not high enough. It's a pet peeve of mine that we don't pay our.
No.
We don't pay our staff what they need, what they owed. We've increased their salary over the years, but not enough. People working in government shouldn't also be eligible for
food
federal benefits because they're not making enough money.
Yeah, and I know that's been a big issue, and it was really the reason why I left the city county because. The cost of living is going up, but the wages were not. and I knew that I could do the same work with my same credentials. I could get 20 grand more in the private sector. And it was like, I didn't want to leave, but it was like,
Right. It's a reflection of, of what you're worth, right? Your time and your experience and the energy and your talents you bring to a position should be reflected in what you're paid. And
it was also, that's one of the things, the reason why I always would get so frustrated when outsiders who have never worked in government talk about, the government workers getting all this stuff, like, what person in government is getting rich?
Right. But it's not us, but anyway.
No.
Yeah. So we're working on that. The results of the compensation study are really, the real work, that the tangible work is getting done at the first part of next year. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to find, not just in our office, but across city county government. Like I said earlier, we've been very busy in the recorder's office, and we haven't been immune to the staffing challenges that everybody else is facing too. And it's hard to get people who are going to come in and work for $14, $15 an hour. I mean, we have great benefits. I always plug, if you have any interest in working in government, please check out the job board. And like Dana, you're not going to get rich doing it, but there's more to it, and being a public servant, serving your community.
Bro, I love you, but I got to counter that. I used to say the same thing. Oh, government benefits are the best. At my private job, my private sector job, my benefits are better.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. But there are some great benefits.
But you do get benefits. That's the thing. Like, you're gonna get benefits, and you get all those extra wonderful days off. That is what I miss. That's like you get. There's at least a day or two every month that you
just about
because mental health days are important.
Yes. Absolutely.
Especially when you're working in government and people lose their mind and forget that they humans and treat other humans like crap when they come into the building.
Yes.
So, it is apparent to me that you are quite knowledgeable about that office, the comings and the goings. And you know what? You seem like, from an administrative standpoint and even a visionary standpoint, maybe we talk about some of the things that you want to see done. But why do you want, you could stay and be the executive director forever. Why do you want to be the recorder? Why do you want to be the elected official?
Well, first of all, I think the recorder the office itself is in a unique position to serve homeowners in particular. We sort of see the life cycle of home ownership from when, the deed gets, the title search is done with the records in our office, the deed and the mortgage get recorded in our office. And the refinancing of that, or when you finally finish paying off that mortgage, that release is filed with our office. So we kind of see that whole story for a homeowner, and I think that puts us in a unique position to be helpful to them, which is what I would like to do. I would like to be an advocate for homeowners, and helping them understand the process, and not just for our office, but helping them access all the benefits or all the services that come from the county. But really, if you think about what homeownership can mean for somebody, I mean,
Yeah.
not just financially,
Yeah.
what that can mean for them, but what that means to a family and to a community, right? And helping people access that, I think would be very rewarding. Um, and there's a lot of people, especially we've found this out over the last 2 years, that it's become even more evident. Some people just need a little extra help, right?
Yes.
And the heavy users in our office, the industry people, they know what they need and they know how to get it. But my neighbor, I'll use as an example. Um, her husband was on the deed to the house. She was not. He was getting sick, and what's going to happen to the house if he goes?
Right.
So I said, well, here's what you can do. One, always talk to an attorney. They're going to be able to give you the best advice. But if you want to be added to the home, to the deed to the home, we can help. I can help you figure that out. We get that a lot. It's moms and dads, it's grandparents and kids that that don't know how that process works. And so, as recorder, that is what I want to do. Doing shows like this and letting people know what the recorder's office does. That's what I plan to do if elected. Is go out and talk to people, neighborhood association meetings, the Moose Lodge, whoever it is, and help them understand what the benefits that they can get from our office.
And I like that. I mean, because we take for granted, having worked in government and worked in a small office comparable to some of the other
Sure.
offices.
Right.
We do provide a service, and we're more likely to have that hands on, a little bit more hands on, personal touch than some of the other agencies, because they're so large. They're so large.
Right.
I mean, there's agencies that just deal with internal customers, and then there's agencies like yours where you're dealing with the external customers, and
Right.
it's a very public building. I mean, I know when COVID, because I was still there when COVID hit, and I just remember, like, this is not a private building. This is a very public building, and I thought everybody did the best they could to keep us safe. Are you guys back fully staffed in the office now?
Um, I won't say we're fully staffed. We actually have 2 jobs that posted yesterday. You
Okay.
can go to indy.gov and search for jobs and find the jobs here that are available in the recorder's office. But you're right. Like everyone else, we're trying to figure out how what are we going to do? How are we going to keep our staff safe? But how are we going to be able to continue serving our customers, which is the most important thing. And I think we never closed. The work continued, whether or not anybody was in the office or not. And your former employer, ISA, did an incredible job. The IT department for City County did an incredible job getting everybody to, all the equipment, everything to work from home. But after about 2 months, I think we reopened limited services in the building. And while everything can be done remotely, if you've got the internet, at least you can
Yes.
access all the services, the internet and telephone. You could access everything that you could need from our office. But I think it's important for people to come to the government and say, this is the service I need, and have that face-to-face interaction when they want it.
Absolutely, because it's our government. It's a citizen
Right.
government. It's ours. It belongs to all of us. But
Right.
they did a great job, and I know that and shout out to all the IT people. If nothing else, people see the value of a geek now.
Right.
And
Right.
we're not just here for gaming. We made sure that you were still able to have your income because we hooked you up with the technology that you needed.
Right.
Yes, I'm plugging all the IT people. I did that. Yeah. So I'm excited. So do you have any, I know that, it's still early and it's holiday season, but do you have any events coming up that people can come and meet you one-on-one or something of that nature?
Yeah. So as your listeners and watchers may know, the county party has a pre-primary convention in February, where the precinct committee people endorse their preferred candidate for office. I'm participating in that. So my efforts, at least for January 1 through February 5th, are going to be focusing on those precinct committee people at first. I will probably have another event in January. I haven't nailed the location down yet. So
No worries.
but people can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Becker for Recorder, or my website, beckerforrecorder.com. And please feel free to reach out with questions or anything else you've got about the office. Or if you got a recorder question too, I'll take those wherever I can get them to.
I love it. So let me ask you this. Fun. It's the holiday season, so we've gotten to know you a little bit, and then I am really excited. And your background is like super dope. Like your tree looks amazing. I still have my regular background. The red tie was all I could give you. I'm gonna go get my Grinch outfit and put that on. I should have wore that today. Dang! I wasn't thinking. Tell us about your most memorable Christmas thing. What is your most memorable Christmas experience?
Well, last year was pretty memorable just because it was so hard, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, I come from a big family, and so getting together last year was a big deal. That that means a lot to our family to see each other. I'll say this, Dana. Again, Catholic family. My mom, I don't know how she did it all these years, has put an incredible lot of time into celebrating Advent, which is the season preceding Christmas for Catholics. There's a lot of family traditions involved with Advent. Putting your shoes out for St. Nicholas. We always decorated the tree. We never got the tree until like Christmas, the week of Christmas, because we were celebrating Advent. We weren't celebrating Christmas yet, right? The nativity scene and putting all that. Our family does. My mom, we do a nativity scene with all the kids, a nativity play, I should say, a little at Christmas time. So that's always fun. Midnight mass, always, have looked forward to that over the years. It's Christmas. It's just family, right?
I love it. I love it. And I do say something crazy at the end because, there's always some Republicans saying something really stupid, and there's not enough time in the day just to highlight how some of the stupid stuff. But you know what? This year I'm gonna, say something positive. First of all, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on the show. I learned so much about you. Like we've been cool for years. Like we've been like, yo, what's up? Right. But never have had a chance to like sit down and get to know you. And good luck. I want every Democrat to be amazing, and you are amazing. I'm certain you'll do very well. But I want to go ahead and just kind of like I want to give my Christmas wish. All right, this is new. I've never done this before, so I'm gonna give my Christmas wish. Excuse me. I've had the opportunity to sit on a couple of shows where, I'm the only Democrat, and there's like 15 people on the other side parading through, and I often hear, we want everyone to do this. And we want everyone to not do this. For example, we don't want anyone to be able to read this book, or we don't want to teach all of our kids this thing. The magician was on the show, and he talked about, he's the CRT, the fictional CRT that's being taught in schools. And I asked him, I said, well, what about the parents who do want their kids to learn about that? And I didn't get to ask the follow-up because it was short, but it was like, so basically you are also working to silence parents and make them conform to what you want. So my Christmas wish this year is that, first of all, we open up our hearts and see people for who they are and not for who we want them to be. Accept them or reject them, but they are who they are. Stop expecting people to live by your rules, your way, and your mindset with your expectations. We end up in all of these different problems and different conflicts because someone isn't doing what you want them to do versus allowing them to be themselves. So this Christmas, I'm going to ask everyone, open up your heart and receive people for who they are. Don't have any expectations. Don't expect them to do anything other than be themselves. And if you like it, cool. If you don't, everybody ain't got to be your cup of tea. But stop expecting people to live by your worldview and let them live by their worldview based on their lived experiences. One of the things that drives me crazy is when I hear somebody say, well, so-and-so is an immigrant from over here and they came over and they were successful and they want to know how come everybody in America ain't successful like them. Stop that. If you were able to become an immigrant into our great nation and you were able to take advantage of opportunities and be successful, then chalk it up to you were just an exceptional person. Instead of suggesting that why can't everybody do it? Well, if everybody did it, then it wouldn't be all that great. If everybody could do the same thing, what would make us unique? Nothing. So just my Christmas wish is that everybody just accept people for who they are. And if you can't, just leave them alone. All right? All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. Listen, I'm not taking any weeks off. I thought I was, but I'm not. I'm going to have another show next week. So I'm not even going to tell you Happy New Year. I'm just going to say Merry Christmas, hug your kids, hug your parents, hug your friends and family, and know that Indiana's own loves you. And I'm going to be back out in these streets again. Y'all going to see me. All right, I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.